Hi everyone, my name is Enrique and welcome to another review. And I want to apologize. Unfortunately, on Wednesday I couldn't post anything about my review of X-Men 97, and that was because I got a cold and therefore I needed to rest. So I'm really sorry. Hopefully, the review will be up next week. But other than that, I hope you guys are well. And today's review is going to be, once again, a little bit different from the ones that I usually do. Normally, in this channel, I like to review things like comic books and movies that are worth talking about. Things like Mission Impossible or The Thunderbolts or even things related to TV shows. But in this case, I'm going to divert from that in this episode, and I'm going to talk about a movie that I watched with a friend called Perfect Days. This movie was directed by German director Wim Wenders, and it stars Koji Yakusho, sorry, as the main character. Now, it's important to tell this. This is pretty much something that you can consider a movie for, the festival, Cannes, something that is an independent movie that you normally don't see in your typical blockbuster film. You clearly probably won't be able to, talk about it, or maybe you don't find it interesting because it's not necessarily a Hollywood movie, but honestly, that's one of the reasons we like movies like this because it speaks to us personally and it doesn't star like big time actors or directors. And somehow, when you come and watch a movie for the first time, you realize how much personally speaks to you, which is something that independent films try to do. They always try to speak for the independent artists, whether it's an actor, director, producer, or whoever. The idea is that you're supposed to see another story, see a different point of view, see what kind of story, and trying to watch something that is not necessarily or particularly a big movie with turns or it's a horror or something like that. Especially when you talk about real life. Now, a lot of people, when they talk about real life, they tend to talk about, big news, events that change your life forever, or, things that you usually see in the news, whether it's about wars, whether it's about politics, whether it's about people who make choices that had incredible consequences for the world, or maybe talking about an artist who exaggerates its story to make it more fantastic for the films. This one is not that. It's a story about a guy from Japan who is living his life day by day. And this is what the plot comes. And that's basically the whole movie. It's basically watching this guy's life. The name of the guy who Yakusho is playing is called Hirayama. He is basically a janitor who most of the time just focuses on his job, focuses in his life, his routines, and just lives the normal days, encountering people here and there, but usually going around his way. And that's the whole structure of the movie. It's watching this guy, watching his life, watching what he does, where he eats, where he works, the places he goes to work, the people he interacts, when he goes to sleep, when he wakes up. He is basically the entire movie. You're watching the routine of a man in 1 week, what he does throughout the weekdays from Monday to Friday, what he does on the weekends, like Saturday and Sunday, and it repeats all over again. If anything, this movie has the story that is going around for 2 weeks. Basically, we see 2 weeks of this man's life, how we see his mindsets, his dreams, but it's not exaggerated. It's not something about a person telling him who he is or telling us his backstory. This is just a normal, regular guy trying to live his life and going across some thoughts and some mindsets that he has while doing these kind of jobs. And that's something that a lot of people can relate to because most of us who we live our daily lives, we have patterns, routines, organizations, schedules. We usually see those things, and when we see it on the big screen, we think, oh, this is just boring. It feels like padding, you know? Padding is basically watching scenes that are not impacted to the plot and they are not significant. That is just there for the sake of the movie length. You know, something like in this case, the movie is basically about a guy going about his routine. There's no story, there is no plot, there is basically no third act, there's no structured story. First act, second act, and third act is basically scenes of the man's life, which, like I said, a lot of people might think it's padding, but the greatest thing is that because it doesn't have necessarily a plot, that it has something at stake or is something important to the character, other than some personal stuff, it makes the scenes work in its favor. And that's really wild, and that's something I appreciate. There's something you need to know about me. I love Japan culture, whether it's about the buildings, how people interact, the culture behind some of the words or some of their visual arts. And well, you should know about me. I'm more of a fan of things like, for example, anime and Super Sentai and all that stuff. So I always was curious about how life in Japan is for a person that lives there. And we see that firsthand. It's basically seeing this guy, Hirayama, living as the janitor, going from different places, different bathrooms, and doing a lot of cleanup. Once in a while, he encounters a person that might be entertaining or basically annoying for him. There's this guy called Takashi, who's played by Tokyo Emoto, who's basically just a douchebag and a guy who just doesn't care about anything. He's kind of like a dude bro, you know, the kind of guy who doesn't think too much and is trying to live his life the best he can, but doesn't pay attention to his surroundings. He just cares about himself. That's the kind of guy that Hirayama has to work with in the janitor division. So, yeah. But it's not without so many characters that this guy interacts. Hirayama encounters a lot of people. A woman who listens to record music, which he also conserves in his house. He interacts with his niece who she ran away from home. We see the relationship with his sister, which is not in the best of terms. He encounters a woman who has a crush on. And this guy, I want to remind you, is probably in his 50s, enough 60s. This guy has been working around for a long time. He doesn't complain about his job. He doesn't say, screw the system. He doesn't do a Fight Club kind of style guy. No, he's very content with his job, very content with his life. He lives a quiet, private, normal little life. He collects plants. He takes it to its apartment. He buys and listens to records, which I want to tell you, some of those records are classic music from the Animals, the Velvet Underground, the Rolling Stones, Lou Reed, the Kinks, and some other songs that you will find in the soundtrack. But yeah, it's very beautiful to see. We see how he goes from the morning to the afternoon until night. And it's like that throughout the entire movie. We see what he does, what he eats. He has a place that he chooses. A lot of people, like I said, will find this boring, But one of the things that like I said, I found compelling is that through these visual motions, through the actors' expressions, and through the places we see and the actions these characters do, we get engaged. We see things that normally a normal person will just scoff aside, especially in a movie, because they don't think it's boring. Be put into the front and make us think, wow, this is probably something I've done or something a friend of mine or my parents have done or someone that I know. Maybe someone who's not successful would think those things about how his life is, how he or she goes through his entire life. And we see Hirayama's frustrations, moments of joy, moments of private from himself, moments of love, loss, sadness, depression, but also of happiness and content. This guy has a lot of emotions that he emotes, but it doesn't have to be exaggerated. He doesn't do like a very big cry scene, like something that Sally Field does in order to get across very powerful emotions. No, this guy is very reserved and very, very much himself. He's really good, a good person, and really kind unless you screw him over, in which he's not going to be happy about it. But he doesn't retaliate. He just hold a grudge. And yet he forgets about it throughout the movie because he is busy with other stuff. And we see this guy when things doesn't always go his way. What happens when things don't go, according to the routines that he has gone through, and what happens when he feels like he's in a boiling point. But that's normal. That's something that a lot of people can, like I said, relate to and feel that in some ways thinking to themselves, wow, I might have gone through that at one point in my life. And that's the important thing. So there is no big fancy effects. There is no big twists and turns. The movie was released in May 25 of 2023. I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, I'm reviewing a movie that came out 2 years ago. Why didn't review it then? I wish I had, but unfortunately, I was not in a very good place, and I didn't want to do so much of movie reviews until then. Until now, doing what I'm doing right now, which is limited my resources, which has helped me a lot. But enough about me. Basically, the whole thing, the cinematography, who's done by Franz Lustig, is, should I say, one of my favorites. Especially, I like the cinematography that he does when he has to shoot the Hirayama's dream sequences. They're not fancy, they're all black and white. It's all about pictures, images about the places he has been, the people he has interacted, the things that he has acquired, objects, even things like puzzles that he does. There is a funny and also kind of a really cute subplot in the movie. Well, not so much of a subplot, more like something that happens in the movie in which Hirayama sees this paper with, circles and X's. You know that game that you always play in which you had to form three X's or three circles in order to win. That's what happens in this movie. But we don't see the person who does that. He just sees the paper. He puts a cross or an X, puts the paper back in its place, and the next day or in a couple of days, he sees the paper again, and he does the exact same thing. And Hirayama finds it entertaining. I gotta say, the actor Koji Yakusho is really, really good in this movie. He really emotes a lot, and he really expresses so much emotion. It's also neat to see places that we see in Japan, particularly in the city of Tokyo, like the bathrooms, the parks, all the different environments. It's all good to see. And I'm glad that things like that in a movie we can watch and relate to. I also like this guy's taste in music. Like I said, the soundtrack is very classic, but also very personal. We see how he gets these recordings. He doesn't make a big deal out of it, and he lets other people to listen to his music, which I actually enjoy a lot. If I ever get to that age, I hope I can do the things that he does and live most of the time a private, but also a normal, content, and just relaxed day when I don't have to worry about watching my phone, about the latest news, about whatever, or worry too much about what I'm going to do for next week, or just, do the things that he does, the things that he does, the routines that he has gone through have a personal touch, and that's something that I really enjoy. And chances are you probably want that as well. Most of us want in our lives things that are big. We want big things to happen. Moments, events, things like whether it's going to a concert or basically have a meeting with a woman or whatever. Regardless of what happens in your life, there are a lot of things that you will think they are not important to you, but maybe they are important to him. I never understood why it's called Perfect Days, because it's basically a normal life, and it's basically about a guy who doesn't do anything significant or anything important or anything that has a stake in it. It's just a normal life about this guy, but after I watched the ending in which he smiles while listening to music. By the way, the music that he listens to is called Feeling Good by Nina Simone. And it makes me understand, yes, those days, while not important for many other people, they're important to you. They are the kind of things that you find joy, small things, things that people won't understand and they don't think are big enough for anyone to care, but they are big enough for you, and they make part of your life, who you are as a person. And that's the important thing. That's something that most of us just want in our lives. Just a quiet, not stressful life that we want for ourselves. I gotta say, one of the things that I should mention, one of the cassette shop customers is played by the director Wim Wenders. So I'm glad that the director managed to have a cameo in this movie. The running time is for 124 minutes, so it's basically almost an hour and a half. So, yeah, I really suggest that if you're watching this movie, you should, at the very least, watch it at your home or at the company of someone who doesn't stress you out or doesn't attack you with questions like, who is this person? Who is this man? Who is this woman? No, just it's a comfort food, or at the very least, a very good movie that you can watch on your own or with someone, if not a multiple people, in which you can watch and feel in a rainy day or in a day that you feel like you need to, that you are by yourself and you don't know what to do, then you can watch this film. That's the kind of feelings that I have. If I ever had like a film if I ever had like a bad day or just a day that I don't feel, particularly energized, I play this movie and makes me appreciate the little things and the small parts of my life, which is important. Now, the review of this movie has an average of 8.3, which is pretty much a good review, 96% based on 184 reviews. I would say that actually qualifies it as a good movie. It is indicated as generally favorable. But yeah, it all depends on your taste. This movie, for what I understand, was nominated for a couple of awards. They won the award for best film in November 3rd in 2023. Wow, 29 years. That was my birthday then, people. I was working then in another place. But yeah, in the Asian Pacific Screen Awards, this movie won for Best Film, and they also won in the Asian Film Awards. So I suggest that as well. They also won in the Cannes Film Festival for Best Actor and prize of ecumenical jury. So that's pretty much really good. So yeah, not much to say about this movie. There's not much that I can provide in terms of what I think in continuity or anything. It's a movie about a normal person living his life, how he interacts with people, and how he lives his entire normal days. So if you find it interesting as I did, then go by any means watch it. Watch it with a friend or watch it by yourself. Trust me, you will feel a lot better and you will connect to this guy, and maybe at some point you will ask yourself, wow, I might have been in that same place as that guy is. So I hope my review maybe eases you into watching this film. Maybe you find curiosity in this. Who knows? But I hope you enjoy it, guys. So yeah, that was my review. Next week, like I said, in on Wednesday, X-Men 97, I promise you. And then the next Friday is going to be something Hollywood, and who knows what it's going to be. I'm having some ideas, but until then, I'm Enrique, and I'll see you next time. Sayonara.